The caged man. He is young. He is angry. He is fighting over blocks he does not own, defending corners that belong to a landlord he has never met. He has energy, intelligence, and hustle, and all of it is pointed inward at his own people. You have seen him. You might know him. You might have been him. And before you write him off, you need to understand how he got there, because this was not an accident. In 1973, the bottom fell out of Black America's working class. American factories started closing or moving overseas. The jobs that held Black urban communities together, union manufacturing jobs, industrial work, the kind of work that let a man provide for his family without a college degree, started disappearing by the millions. Between 1973 and 1980, over 4 million of those jobs vanished from this country, and Black workers were sitting right in the center of that collapse. Black men made up 14.2% of the auto workforce in the early 1980s. In Detroit alone, the share of Black men in manufacturing dropped from 56% in 1970 down to 26% by 2000. That is not a statistic. That is a whole generation of fathers losing the one thing that made a family possible. Then, Ronald Reagan walked into the White House in 1981 and finished the job. His administration cut the Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, a job training program funded at $3.1 billion, entirely. Gone. $2 billion cut from food stamps. Neighborhood assistance programs shut down. Reagan did not hide what he was doing. He called it fiscal responsibility. But the communities that bled were not random. With no jobs and no training programs, some young men turned to the one economy that was still hiring, the drug trade. And the federal government was ready for that too. On June 19, 1986, University of Maryland basketball star Len Bias died of a cocaine overdose. The country went into a panic. Congress moved faster on drug legislation than it had moved on almost anything else in years. Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, mobilized his entire caucus. And on October 27, 1986, Ronald Reagan signed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act into law. That law created a 100-to-1 sentencing disparity between crack cocaine and powder cocaine. 5 grams of crack, 5 grams, carried a mandatory minimum of 5 years in federal prison. You needed 500 grams of powder cocaine to trigger the same sentence. Crack was cheaper. Crack moved in poor urban neighborhoods. Crack moved in Black neighborhoods. Powder cocaine moved through offices, suburbs, and country clubs. The law knew the difference. That is the part that should make your blood boil. Before 1986, Black people received drug sentences that were 11% longer than white people for the same offenses. By 1990, just 4 years later, that gap had exploded to 49%. The number of Black adults sent to federal prison for drugs went from roughly 50 per 100,000 to 250 per 100,000. And from 2015 to 2023, Black people made up 80% of all federal crack cocaine convictions. 80%. For a drug that white people use too. The caged man did not build his cage. Reagan built the bars. Deindustrialization poured the concrete. The 1986 Act locked the door. But here is the accountability pivot, and it matters. Family, the trap was real. The system was rigged. And we still have to choose something different. When we let territorial beef cost us our freedom, our lives, and our futures, we are giving them exactly what they designed this for. The rage is valid. The violence is not. And knowing who built the trap means you are no longer allowed to pretend you did not see it. The next archetype runs even deeper because this one steals from the inside. The phantom hustler. He is everywhere on your timeline. He is selling courses on how to get rich while his own bills are past due. He is hyping products into the community that he would never put in his own body. He calls himself an entrepreneur. He calls himself a boss. But look closely at what he is actually building and who he is building it off of. The phantom hustler does not build, he extracts. And the community he extracts from is already running on empty. Here is why that empty tank exists. In 1933, the federal government created the Homeowners Loan Corporation, the HOLC. They went city by city and drew maps. Green neighborhoods were good investments. Red neighborhoods were too risky to lend to. And the neighborhoods they colored red were almost always black. This is where the word redlining comes from. 1 year later, in 1934, the Federal Housing Administration doubled down. The FHA started insuring mortgages across the country, but it required that properties be in white-only neighborhoods. The federal government took the engine of American wealth, homeownership, and locked black people out of it by policy. Between 1934 and 1962, the federal government subsidized $120 billion in new housing. Only 2% of that money went to non-white families. 2%. From 1945 to 1959, less than 2% of all federally insured home loans went to black Americans. This is not a coincidence. This is a plan. Home ownership was the primary way American families built generational wealth in the 20th century, and black families were systemically cut out of it for decades. The Fair Housing Act of 1968 finally made redlining illegal, but by then, the damage had been compounding for 35 years. Hey family, real talk. YouTube has shut down channels for telling exactly these kinds of stories, so I need you to find us off this platform. Go to blackstories-untold.com, join our mailing list, and make sure we stay connected no matter what they do. Now, back to the list. That wealth gap shows up in every number today. Black families hold $23 for every $100 of white family wealth. The SBA, the government agency designed to help small businesses, approves loans for 64% of white-owned businesses and only 35% of black-owned businesses. In 2021, only 13% of black-owned businesses that applied for financing actually received it. White-owned businesses received financing 40% of the time. Black people are roughly 12% of this country's population and own less than 3% of its businesses. Researchers found that lenders in mystery shopper experiments expressed interest in loaning to 40% of white applicants, but only 23% of black applicants, even when the black applicants had better financial profiles. The Capital Desert is real. It was built deliberately. Specific people at the FHA and HOLC made specific decisions about who could build wealth in this country. And those decisions still echo in every loan denial, every underfunded black business, every entrepreneur who cannot get a fair shot through legitimate channels. But here is where we hold ourselves accountable, because this matters too. The Capital Desert does not justify predatory behavior inside your own community. It does not justify selling fake courses to people scraping together their last dollars. It does not justify pushing harmful products to your own family. Family, the system made it hard to build. That is true. But the phantom hustler stopped trying to build and started hunting instead. And he is hunting us. There is no amount of oppression that makes it righteous to bleed the people who are already bleeding. The next archetype is the one people are most afraid to talk about, and the one the system worked the hardest to create: the broken queen. Black women were the backbone of this community. That is not a compliment. That is a historical fact. When the caged man was locked up and the phantom hustler was running game, black women were the ones holding households together, raising children, building churches, funding civil rights organizations. The standard was real. The crown was real. So when we talk about the broken queen, we are not talking about a weak woman. We are talking about a powerful woman who has pointed that power in the wrong direction. Here is what the system did first, and we need to say this clearly because it matters. In the late 1950s and 1960s, the federal AFDC welfare program developed the man in the house rule. If a man lived in the home, the family lost its benefits. A single mother who married a man earning $8 an hour stood to lose over $8,000 a year in combined support. The government had written a financial penalty for black marriage directly into federal law. The Supreme Court struck the rule down in King v. Smith in 1968, but the economic disincentive to form two-parent households stayed woven into the broader system long after that. Then, the 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act physically removed the men who remained. More than 1.1 million black men are imprisoned today. Approximately 500,000 of them are fathers. 1 in 9 black children has a parent in prison. The system cracked the crown on purpose. But here is where this archetype becomes the most dangerous one on this list. Because the broken queen is not just surviving the damage, she is now amplifying it. She knows the system hurt her, and she has turned that knowledge into a permanent identity. The victim mindset is not just something she carries, it is something she performs, loudly, publicly, and she uses it to avoid the one thing that would actually change her situation: accountability. Family, this is the part people do not want to say out loud. The broken queen is the one dismissing the man who is actually building and chasing the caged man's energy. She says she wants stability, but she keeps choosing chaos. She says good men do not exist, while the good man in her circle gets labeled corny, soft, or boring. The phantom hustler gets her attention because he looks the part. The caged man gets her loyalty because the trauma bond feels like love. And when it falls apart, and it always falls apart, the system gets the blame again. Not the choice, not the pattern, the system. That is the inversion. Black women were historically the standard setters of this community. The broken queen has flipped that role entirely. She is now rewarding the lowest behavior and dismissing the highest. And the community feels that downstream in ways we do not talk about enough. When destructive men are validated and builders are rejected, you have just rigged the incentive structure against your own people. The caged man sees that his behavior gets rewarded. The phantom hustler sees that his lifestyle attracts. And the man actually trying to build something watches both of them win and starts to wonder why he is working so hard. And then comes the part that should shake every single person watching this. The broken queen is raising the next generation. Her son watches her chase the caged man and learns that chaos is what love looks like. He becomes the next caged man. Her daughter watches her weaponize victimhood as an identity and learns that the system is always to blame and accountability is never required. She becomes the next broken queen. The phantom hustler she brought into the home teaches her children that extraction is business and image is everything. She is not just a product of the cycle. She is the reproduction mechanism of all 3 archetypes. The trap does not just reset, it multiplies. Here is what you do with everything you just heard. Step 1. Know the specific history of redlining in your own city. Go to the Mapping Inequality Project online. It is free and searchable by city. Find the Hulk map of where you grew up. Look at what color your neighborhood was given in 1933 or 1940. Then look at what that neighborhood looks like today. Let that be personal, because it is personal. Print it out. Show it to your family. Step 2. Stop giving money to phantom hustlers. Before you buy any course, any product, any program being pushed by someone in your community, search their name plus the word scam. Ask for verifiable results, not testimonials. Put your dollars into Black-owned businesses that are actually producing goods and real services. Redirect at least one purchase this month. Step 3. If you are a father, incarcerated, previously incarcerated, or free, find one way to be present this week. One phone call, one letter, one visit, one consistent thing. Research shows that father involvement, even at a distance, dramatically changes outcomes for Black children. You do not have to be perfect. You have to be present. Step 4. If you see the broken queen pattern in yourself, be honest. Ask yourself who you are rewarding with your time, your loyalty, and your children's environment. Write down the last 3 men you chose. Write down what they were actually building. The pattern will tell you what you need to know. Then ask yourself what standard you are setting for the people watching you most closely. Step 5. Family. Share this video with someone who needs to hear the history before they hear the accountability. Not to excuse the behavior, to give people the full picture. Because when people understand that the trap was built, some of them will finally decide to stop walking into it. Here is the verdict. The caged man, the phantom hustler, and the broken queen were not born from weakness. They were engineered from policy. The deindustrialization of the 1970s, Reagan's job program cuts, the 100-to-1 sentencing disparity, Hulk redlining in 1933, FHA mortgage discrimination in 1934, the AFDC man-in-the-house rule. These were not mistakes. They were decisions made by specific people for specific reasons with fully predictable outcomes. And the people who built these systems knew exactly what a black neighborhood with no jobs, no capital, no fathers, and no institutional support would look like in 50 years. They knew. They built it anyway. What you carry now is not a burden. It is a receipt, proof of what was done and who did it. And receipts have a purpose. They tell you what the transaction actually was. Now you know. The question is what you build with that knowledge. Because knowing the trap was built is the first step toward being the generation that finally steps over it. The truth was always ours. They just worked very hard to make sure we never found it. This was Black Stories Untold, and as always, thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, click the video on your screen now.